again addressing his nation. Atika, what is the situation on the ground? Any reports of casualties, and how are authorities implementing martial law?
Yes, the country is now at the highest state of alert. The president also called for a general mobilization. He'd already called up reservists, and now he's asking for any able-bodied person to help defend Ukraine if needed in their towns, villages, and cities. Just a little while ago, we actually heard a series of air raid sirens here in Lviv. It does appear that a number of targets in western Ukraine were also hit, in addition to the number of cities that are hit in the rest of the country. Kiev, Kharkiv, Odessa. In all of those places, there have been targeted strikes, it looks like, on military facilities and air bases. Now what we're watching for is whether or not we see Russian troops in those areas. What appears to be the strategy is that Russian forces seem to be coming in from the north of the country towards Kiev, in from the east towards Kharkiv, and in from the south from Odessa. We're still trying to get details on that. What we know for certain is that we've seen a convoy of Russian military coming in from the north, from Belarus. But it's a very volatile and fluid situation. In the meantime, the president has appealed for the public to keep calm, but to also keep safe. Make sure that everybody has enough supplies in their house. When air raid sirens go off, seek shelter, make sure that all the gas is turned off, and to know where the evacuation routes are in the neighborhoods. So it's still very fluid. Here in Lviv, things have calmed down a little bit. We haven't heard an air raid siren for a while, but people are queuing up at banks, trying to get cash, trying to get gas, making sure they have an escape route if necessary, Pia.
Atika, what are world leaders saying about the increase of sanctions and Russia, assistance for Ukraine? What is the European Union saying also?
Well, almost immediately, this means that the harshest sanctions will be placed on Russia. This is what the United States had warned. It was what the EU had warned. And now, by seeing what appears to be the beginnings of a full-scale invasion, those sanctions will start to go into effect. We're just waiting for the official word. But as you can imagine, there has been a round of condemnation from the U.S., from the EU. They see this defiance by Russian President Vladimir Putin as something to be utterly condemned. So we're waiting to see what other kinds of help can be provided. In the days running up to this, the Russian military was given more weapons, more military equipment, but it is not a member of NATO. And that means that when Russian troops cross over, and if they clash with Ukrainian troops, it will only be Ukrainian soldiers that they come up against. Other NATO allies will not be entering into the fray, at least not for the moment. It's possible that things could change, especially if we start seeing more Russian troop movements closer to Western Ukraine, closer to NATO allies. That's when we might see this changing into something much, much bigger.
Atika Schubert there in Western Ukraine of CNN. Back here at home, the government all hands on deck to bring Filipinos to safety. The Foreign Affairs Department says it is coordinating with nearly 200 Filipino nationals in Ukraine for evacuation. Tristan Adalo now joins us live for the details. Tristan? Do we have Tristan now? All right, we're going to get back to Tristan Nadalo in just a bit. "74 days until the Filipino votes on May 9th, COMELEC looking to help over 67 million voters decide by offering its own series of debates beginning next month. Melissa Lopez also reports the poll body has a new requirement for the controversial Operation Baklas.
Mark your calendars. The Commission on Elections expects all 10 presidential hopefuls to attend its official debate on March 19th.
We have commitments from all campaigns that their candidates will be joining us.
COMELEC spokesman James Jimenez says the candidates will share one stage from 7 to 9:30 p.m. However, the spokesman of former Senator Bongbong Marcos says they have not yet agreed to join the debate at the Philippine Arena, again citing a hectic schedule. There won't be any live audience. 8 out of 9 vice presidential candidates will face off on March 20th, with Buhay Party List Congressman Lito Atienza begging off due to knee surgery. A moderator will field questions to attendees subject to strict rules.
Okay, no one will have any advance information about the questions. We will not allow candidates to bring anything on stage. We will provide them with a pad and a pen on the podium, but they will not be able to bring notes to the debate.
To encourage more exchanges and voter education, the poll body is also set to accredit fora and interview programs featuring candidates, which will be exempt from its broadcast airtime. The poll body has accredited CNN Philippines election debates this month, along with partnerships with other media networks to combat misinformation.
Suriin po nating mabuti ang ating mga kandidato. Meron pa tayong mahigit na 2 buwan para gawin ito. Higit sa lahat, bumoto ng naaayon sa konsyensya at tamang impormasyon.
COMELEC also gives in to massive backlash over its Operation Baklas, or the removal of campaign posters within private property. The 4-member COMELEC and bank agreed in a closed-door session to require written consent from homeowners before its field officers take down these posters.
If the property owner refuses to give consent, then a case is possible. Okay? In the meantime, the posters stay up.
Still, the poll body insists it has the right to regulate the size of campaign materials. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
COMELEC's James Jimenez later on showing a letter from Marcos's national campaign manager Benher Abalos, where he expressed the candidate's, quote, readiness to join the poll body's official debates, unquote. This contradicts the statement of Marcos's chief of staff, Vic Rodriguez. In the February 11 letter, Abalos even asked for a meeting with COMELEC together with representatives of other candidates to thresh out the debate format. But Rodriguez denies any conflict in the letter and his latest statement, saying they are ready to attend forums, interviews, and even debates, quote, schedule permitting. Rodriguez earlier said they prefer doing one-on-one interviews. We're counting down to our very own vice presidential and presidential debates. 7 vice presidential candidates will stand side by side to answer the hard questions on Saturday, February 26 at 5 p.m. at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. 9 presidential bets will also take the debate stage on Sunday, February 27 at 5 p.m. also at UST. These COMELEC accredited debates are in partnership with UST and Microsoft Philippines to help you make an informed choice come May 9th. Well, here's a look at what some presidential candidates are up to. Bongbong Marcos woos voters in Iloilo, a known bailiwick of his rival Vice President Leni Robredo. The former senator met with local leaders and supporters at the Iloilo Convention Center. He was supposed to hold a campaign rally in Gimbal, but that was canceled. Netizens called out the use of a public school for his event, which is not allowed under the Education Department's guidelines. During his visit to Iloilo, Marcos chanced upon Senator Franklin Drilon, who is scheduled to join Robredo's grand campaign rally in the province tomorrow. Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, meanwhile, says he would give Robredo a government post if he wins the presidency.
Why not if she's willing? Metaphorically.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically. O yun, hypothetically. Hypothetical. Bumibet sa tuloy ako kung ano ang kung saan siya magaling, kung ano yung kagalingan niya, baka magamit natin siya, but if she's willing. Pero ayokong pangunahan ang mga tao.
On the eve of the 36th anniversary of the EDSA revolution, 9 framers of the 1987 Constitution endorsed Robredo and her running mate, Senator Kiko Pangilinan. Constitution framers say the tandem adheres to the basic tenets of the Constitution, such as respect for human rights and co-equal branches of government. And Senator Lacson's running mate Tito Soto called the bloodless revolution the nation's, quote, greatest victory over the dark times. He called on the country not to forget and to protect history from those who wish to revise the narrative of EDSA. Let's go back to the Ukraine-Russia crisis. The government all hands on deck to bring Filipinos to safety. The Foreign Affairs Department says it is coordinating with nearly 200 Filipino nationals in Ukraine. Tristan Odalo now joins us live for the details. Tristan?
Pia, should there be no flight changes, 4 more Filipinos are expected to arrive to the Philippines tomorrow, bringing the total number of repatriated Filipinos to 10. In a media briefing, the Department of Foreign Affairs says that it is already coordinating with 181 Filipinos, majority of whom are in Ukraine's capital, Kiev. Government officials add that they appeal to our kababayans in Ukraine not to panic, saying they will exert all efforts to bring them home if they want to. Apart from Poland, the embassies in Hungary, Russia, and other European posts are also on standby for any eventuality. So here are the scenarios the Philippine government is looking at for Filipinos in Ukraine apart from repatriation. First, the DFA can bring Filipinos to safer areas in Ukraine, particularly to Lviv, the western part of the country. There are also ongoing talks for other countries to allow Filipinos in without visas. DFA Chief Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. says Poland has agreed to do so. They are still waiting for Russia's response. Locsin adds that if the Warsaw Embassy needs more staff, posts from Denmark, Germany, Norway, and Sweden can help.
Actually, there are no people yet who've crossed to other countries. We have just repatriated 6 people last week, and we are hoping that we'll be able to repatriate another 4 tonight if circumstances allow. If our kababayans feel safer to go to Lviv, then we will make arrangements. But anybody who wants repatriation, we will use all available means to be able to bring them home. Now, as to the evacuation efforts, we will use all means. If flying is still possible, we will fly them out of Ukraine and back to the Philippines. If not, then we will use land, or we can, and anything else that's possible.
Repatriation is still not mandatory for Filipinos in Ukraine. So far, Ukraine is under alert level 2, and only Foreign Affairs Secretary Teddy Boy Locsin Jr. can decide on whether or not there is a need to raise the alert level, which will make the repatriation mandatory. Back to you, Pia.
Tristan, can you tell us why a majority of Filipinos still insist on staying in Ukraine despite the conflict?
It's the uncertainty of what will happen to them when they return home. That's the most common reasons of Filipinos that we interviewed in Ukraine. Also, they're worried about their jobs or leaving their jobs and their families in Ukraine. They don't see any sense of panic at the moment, according to the Filipinos that we've interviewed. Let's listen in.
Medyo tension po, pero hindi pa naman kami kinakabahan. Konti lang po kasi nga po dito sa city wala naman pong panic. Ang mga tao parang everyday works or everyday po nila yung mga businesses nila. Katulad din po ng dati, lahat po all in operate.
But if they will avail the repatriation, the DFA says that necessary assistance will be given to them, including financial assistance when they return home. Back to you, Pia.
Tristan Odalo there reporting. You're watching Newsnight on CNN Philippines. When we return, gaming regulator PAGCOR agrees to suspend all e-sabong operations amid investigations into missing sabongeros. And we take a trip down memory lane 36 years after the EDSA People Power Revolution with a retired Navy officer. Keep it here on CNN Philippines. Welcome back to Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. Families of the missing individuals allegedly involved in cockfighting asked the Senate for help as the cases remain unresolved, while gaming regulator PAGCOR will seek the approval of Malacanang to suspend e-sabong operations. Amor Santos has more.
Ano po bang kasalanan? Anong nangyari? Sino kumuha? Saan dinala? Anong ginawa nila hanggang ngayon? Di namin alam.
Isabelita Bacay's sons, James and Marlon, were among the 6 individuals who went missing from a cockpit in Manila in January. 40-year-old James is a game fowl handler, while his 20-year-old brother Marlon accompanied him. They had with them a rooster from the farm of Butch Inonog, whose son, driver John Claude, also disappeared.
Noong January 13, 7:45 p.m., nung huli kami nag-usap ng anak ko, alarming na po yung salita niya dahil sabi niya, "Pa, bakit sinasakay sila Kuya James sa van? Pati ako sinasakay ni ganito, ni ganyan, ganyan." Sabi ko, "Bakit? Anong problema?" Hindi ko alam pa eh. Biglang may umagaw po ng telepono.
4 other disappearances happened in Santa Cruz, Laguna, also on January 13 this year, and December 29, May 11, and April 28 last year. A total of 19 went missing from the same arena, including a 14-year-old boy. In a 6th incident, 6 people were last seen at the Royal Octodome in Lipa City, Batangas on January 6. Former top cops, Senators Bato de la Rosa and Ping Lacson urged the Philippine National Police to double down on its probe. Police suspect it's connected to game fixing, even as the Manila Arena management says there were no signs of the so-called panyonyope. Police have identified persons of interest, including a certain Julius Havilio, allegedly involved in the disappearances in Laguna, but he can no longer be found.
Sana huwag kayong manghina sa investigation nyo. Huwag kayong matakot kung sino mababangga ninyo, kung may mababangga kayong malaking tao, influential na tao. Kagaya ng ginawa natin sa war on drugs, kahit sino binabangga natin, huwag kayong matakot.
With some leads and pieces of evidence discovered, eventually we could file the appropriate charges.
At the request of Senators, PAGCOR agreed to suspend all e-sabong operations amid the ongoing investigations. The agency said it will seek the approval of the Office of the President. Family members of the missing sabongeros admit they're taking a gamble by appearing publicly, since their loved ones could still be with their abductors and their own lives are put at risk. But it's a chance they're willing to take in hopes of getting them back. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
During the course of the hearing, 3 more disappearances related to e-sabong activities last year were revealed, raising the number of missing individuals to 34. Senator Bato de la Rosa says he will speak to President Duterte about the suspension of e-sabong operations. Well, 36 years since the EDSA People Power Revolution, the peaceful uprising marked the end of Ferdinand Marcos's dictatorship. We now go above and beyond the headlines with a convener of Isambayan, Romel Ong. Retired Rear Admiral Romel Ong, as his rank suggests, was a high-ranking naval officer. The beginnings of his career in the armed forces were at a crucial moment in history. He graduated from the Philippine Military Academy in 1987. Admiral Ong, good evening and welcome to Newsnight. Thank you so much for agreeing to this interview. You were a 4th-class cadet, sir, or first year in the academy in 1982, and in 1983, when Ninoy Aquino was assassinated, what went through your mind?
Well, I think yung assassination of Ninoy Aquino in 1983 was the triggering event. Although within the context ng academy, hindi naman napag-uusapan yun. It's something you dwell on your own.
A triggering event, sir. But earlier I was listening to your sharing during the Isambayan event on Facebook, where you talked about the EDSA revolution, and it was interesting that when you said that you thought to yourself, nung nabalitaan po ninyo yung assassination, you said, "Mali ito." What did you mean by that, and why was that what you said? Why did you say that?
Well, it's a very compelling event for me. Outright naman, makita natin there's no moral issue there. Mali talaga yon. Naramdam ko lang at that moment is parang ito yung simula pero hindi mo alam kung ano yun eh.
Okay. Sir, we'll fast forward to 1986, 3 years later. And the EDSA revolution was happening in Manila. Again, like you said earlier, no, noong 1983, nung kadete kayo sa academy, syempre at the time, wala masyadong technology, no? So medyo, you're confined within the academy's wall. So 86, merong nangyayari sa EDSA. Ano po yung sinasabi sa inyo? And what were you, the cadet corps, about to do that time?
Nung time na yun, radyo lang yung yung way of communicating outside the world. Yung TV is not actually allowed inside barracks. So basically word of mouth. Ang nare-recall ko lang nung time ng 86, and I was a second class, in the second class right that time. Kumatok sa amin yung isang first class sa kwarto namin. Sabi niya, sige, mag-prepare na tayo. Instruction is we will be picked up by a C-130 aircraft. Then we will proceed to EDSA. So nag-withdraw na kami ng rifle namin noong time na yon, and we were packing yung combat gears namin. But a few hours later, sabi hindi na tuloy, stay put lang tayo sa Baguio. So yun that was the
okay, so
kumbaga yun yung experience ko noong time na yun.
And of course, Sir Romel, 1986 in March, when the PMA Sinagtalo class of 1986 graduated, you had a new president, a new commander-in-chief, Cory Aquino, female, and then after 20 years of Marcos. And then a year later, it was your turn, your class's turn to graduate. Everybody remembers the bombing at the grandstand just a week before graduation. Tell us about that. How it affected you, what did your graduation mean, and then what was it like for you? Leaving the academy and then going out into the world. So nagbago ang Pilipinas to a certain extent. People saw the armed forces through different lenses, but what was it like? Sorry sir, ang haba ng question.
Okay. Kumbaga merong parang dramatic change from the euphoria of 86. Then 1 year later, 1987, you're graduating, tapos ang humarap sa'yo 1 week before was yung sumabog yung grandstand namin. And there were casualties, both military and civilian at the time. Nung sumabog yung grandstand, we just hit the ground for a while. Then nung naka-recover na kami sa shock namin, some of my classmates went to the grandstand to help with the casualties. The others, kasama ko, bumalik kami sa vicinity ng mga barracks kasi we were trying to look for baka may iba pang bomba na tinanim doon sa paligid. So yun yung effort namin for that day. We never had a closure on that incident even up to now kasi I presume it was investigated, but we were not privy to the result of the investigation. And kung titingnan mo yun years later, parang masamang signos kasi after that, ang bungad sa amin is parang ito yung papasukan naming context o environment pag-graduate namin. Hindi siya maayos. Hindi siya yung euphoria ng 86. Merong problema and we need to address that.
Oh, merong problema Sir Romel sa loob ng armed forces because like you said, so may euphoria ng 86. As the months went on, parang nawala, parang nag-dissipate. And then there was a lot of restiveness within the military. So you had the RAM boys, the rebels, the military rebels. You had a lot of unrest, coup after coup, and then December 89. Hindi po ba, sir? Tell us muna po and maganda yung sharing nyo kanina sa isang bayan. Meron kayong learnings about reform in the AFP, what was it like during Marcos's time? What was it like after? And how how the armed forces struggled to change and to reform?
Okay. When I framed it kanina umaga dun sa Tapatan Forum namin, what I was trying to say is that kami yung generation namin yung transition. We were gaya sabi ko, pumasok kami doon, ang presidente natin si President Marcos noong 82. Then we end up graduating in 1987. Si President Cory na yung pangulo natin. Pero yung shift hindi naman nagbag ganun yung armed forces kasi yung Sandatang Lakas, napakalaking institution yan. Hindi ganun kabilis mag-reforma o magbago. Meron siyang may mga incremental resistance within the structure. So yung reforma ng Sandatang Lakas, it took years, maybe siguro decades nga bago na iayos yun talaga. Ang pinaka-trauma ng siguro na generation namin was yung post-86 was yung series of coups. Particularly because nagkaroon ng sitwasyon na yung classmate nasa kabilang side, nasa magkaibang side sila ng political spectrum at that time. Tapos it came to a point na there were times na the organization itself, yung Sandatang Lakas, was hunting yung mga classmate mo. Kasi pumasok nga sila doon sa kabilang grupo sa rebelde. So one of the things that nakita namin dito, and personally, hindi dapat bumalik yung sitwasyon na yung Sandatang Lakas hati. Kasi pag yung Sandatang Lakas ay hati, ang epekto niya sa buong bansa kasi there are situations, and I know you know that there are situations in our political past na ang kinikilingan ng mamamayan is yung yung Sandatang Lakas. Okay, andyan yung AAP, tutulong sa atin, hindi tayo pababayaan yan. Pero kung nagkaroon tayong sitwasyon na guguho yung Sandatang Lakas, meaning magpa-fracture sa from within, walang kikilingan yung mga tao, wala silang tatakbuhan. So nakita ko yun yung magiging problema doon.
I wish we had more time, Sir Romel Ong, but we really appreciate your thoughts and your sharing about this, because EDSA, as we all know and as we can see from what you're saying, hindi naman ito just one event in history. Like you were saying, like you share, napakalaking evento, ang daming ramifications, and years after we see the implications. Maraming salamat po sa inyo, retired Rear Admiral Romel Ong. Still ahead on Newsnight, the ultimate Spider-Man trio brings an iconic meme to life. Details next. Entertainment news now. 3 generations of the web-slinging hero suited up to recreate this viral meme promoting the digital release of Spider-Man No Way Home. Stars Tom Holland, Tobey Maguire, and Andrew Garfield posed for this photograph. It's a take on a 1960s cartoon of 2 Spider-Men, one of them an impersonator, pointing at each other. The movie is out for streaming March 22nd. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you by